She ran her child to the ER. The doctor was her ex, and her son's father. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. The emergency room doors slid open at 2:17 in the morning, spilling white light into the rain-soaked street. She ran inside barefoot, her sneakers dangling from 2 fingers, her hair plastered to her face. Her son was burning up in her arms, his skin too hot, his breaths shallow and uneven. The triage nurse looked up once and called for a stretcher. Her heart slammed against her ribs as they rushed past rows of chairs and blinking monitors. The air smelled like antiseptic and fear. She kept whispering his name, over and over, as if sound alone could keep him awake. A nurse asked questions she barely heard. Age, weight, allergies. When they said his temperature was 104.6 degrees Fahrenheit, the room seemed to tilt. She signed a clipboard with a shaking hand and followed them down the hall, praying she had not waited too long. Then the curtain pulled back. The doctor stepped in, already speaking, already focused, sleeves rolled to his forearms. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw her face. For a split second, neither of them moved. She recognized him instantly. The same dark hair, the same steady eyes she once trusted with every secret she had. The man she had loved. The man who had left without knowing what he left behind. He looked at her, then at the child on the bed, then back at her again. His professional calm wavered, just slightly, like a crack in glass. "Hello," he said carefully, as if the word itself could break something. She could not speak. Her throat closed. Of all the hospitals in the city, of all the nights this could have happened, it had to be him. He recovered first. He always did. He moved to the bedside, checking vitals, calling out instructions. His voice was calm, precise, trained to keep panic at bay. He asked when the fever started. He asked about cough, about vomiting, about pain. She answered automatically, eyes never leaving her son's face. The monitor beeped steadily. The boy whimpered and reached for her hand. She took it, pressing her thumb into his palm, counting his breaths like she had done so many nights before. The doctor glanced at her again. "We are going to take good care of him," he said. "I need you to trust me." Trust. The word landed hard. As nurses moved in and out, he worked with quiet intensity. He ordered fluids. He ordered labs. He adjusted the oxygen mask and smoothed the blanket over small shoulders with a gentleness that made her chest ache. She told herself this was not the time. This was not the place. Whatever they were to each other belonged to another life. Right now, he was just a doctor. She was just a mother. And the only thing that mattered was getting her son through the night. But she saw it. The way the doctor's gaze lingered on the child's face. The way his jaw tightened when the boy coughed. The way his hand paused, just a beat too long, when their fingers brushed. "Does he have any family history of febrile seizures?" the doctor asked. She shook her head. "No." He nodded, making a note. "What about blood type?" She hesitated. "O negative," she said quietly. His pen stopped. He looked up again, slower this time, as if something had shifted beneath his feet. His eyes moved from the chart to the child, then back to her, searching for answers she had spent years protecting. She felt the past pressing in from all sides. The nights she cried alone, the choice she made to disappear, the promise she made to keep her son safe, no matter the cost. Outside the room, thunder rolled. Inside, the machines hummed on. She swallowed hard and squeezed her son's hand. Whatever was coming next, it was already too late to stop it. The night stretched on in slow, measured minutes. The emergency room quieted after the initial rush, but the tension inside the small treatment room never eased. The machines continued their steady rhythm, each beep a reminder that her son was still fighting something unseen. The fluids dripped into his arm. His breathing evened out, but his skin remained flushed, too warm beneath her hand. She sat at the bedside, counting the rise and fall of his chest, afraid to blink. The doctor returned with a nurse and reviewed the chart in silence. His face was composed, but she noticed the way his shoulders held tension, the way he stood closer than necessary. When the nurse stepped out, he remained. "How long has he been sick?" he asked. "2 days," she said. "I thought it was just a virus. Then the fever would not come down." He nodded slowly. "You did the right thing bringing him in." The words should have comforted her. Instead, they carried weight. He had always known how to say the right thing. He checked the intravenous line, adjusted the monitor, then paused. His eyes lingered on the child again, studying details only a parent would notice. The curve of his brow, the faint dimple when he stirred, familiar things. "Does he have a pediatrician?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "Back home." "Back home," he repeated quietly. "You moved." She hesitated. "Yes." Another silence settled between them, heavy with things unsaid. Years collapsed into inches of space. She could feel the question pressing against his restraint. A lab technician knocked softly and handed him a clipboard. He scanned the page, his expression tightening just enough for her to notice. "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing urgent," he said too quickly. "We are still waiting on a few results." She did not believe him. She had learned long ago to read his pauses, his careful words. He set the clipboard down and looked at her again, this time without the distance he had been holding. "How old is he asked. "6, she said. He swallowed. 6. The number seemed to echo in the room. 6 years of first steps he missed. 6 years of bedtime stories he never read. 6 years of birthdays he never knew existed. She stood abruptly, needing air. "I need to check on something," she said, though there was nothing to check. She stepped into the hallway, pressing her back against the wall, breathing through the tightness in her chest. Moments later, he followed. The hallway lights cast sharp reflections on the polished floor. The hospital smelled clean and cold, stripped of comfort. He stopped a few feet away, respecting a boundary she had never asked for, but always needed. "Why did you not tell me?" he asked softly. Her breath caught. "You left," she said. "You walked away before I had the chance." His jaw tightened. "I left because I thought you did not want me, because I was told you had moved on." Her voice trembled. "I tried to reach you." He looked away, pain flickering across his face. "I never received anything." They stood there, two people undone by years of silence, while behind them a small boy slept under fluorescent lights. "I did not keep him from you out of spite," she said. "I was scared. I did not know how to find you after everything fell apart." He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. "I cannot change the past," he said, "but I am here now." A nurse called his name. He turned back toward the room, then paused. "I will explain everything once he is stable," he said. "Right now, he needs us focused." Us. The words settled between them, fragile and unfamiliar. They returned to the bedside together. The boy stirred and murmured something unintelligible. Without thinking, the doctor reached out and brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. The motion was instinctive, gentle, unmistakably paternal. She watched, her eyes burning. The monitor continued its steady rhythm. Outside the room, the night deepened, and somewhere between the machines and the silence, the truth had already changed everything. The monitors softened their rhythm as dawn crept toward the hospital windows. Her son's fever finally began to break. The nurse smiled gently as she adjusted the chart and whispered that the worst seemed to be passing. Relief washed over her so suddenly that her knees weakened. She sat down hard in the chair beside the bed, pressing both hands to her face, letting out a breath she felt she had been holding for years. The doctor remained near the doorway, watching every change, every number on the screen. When the nurse left, he stepped closer. "He is responding well to the fluids and medication," he said. "We caught it in time." She nodded, unable to speak. Tears slipped through her fingers and fell onto the blanket. He hesitated, then handed her a box of tissues. "You did everything right," he said again, this time with more certainty. She wiped her eyes and looked up at him. "I was so afraid," she admitted. "I kept thinking if I lost him, I would lose everything." His expression softened in a way she had never seen before. "You did not lose him," he said quietly, "and you are not alone." The lab results arrived shortly after. He read them in silence, his posture straightening as if bracing for impact. When he looked at her, there was no doubt left in his eyes. "The results confirm it," he said. "He is my son." The words did not feel explosive. They felt heavy, settling into the room like truth that had been waiting too long to be spoken. She nodded slowly. "Yes." He pulled a chair closer and sat down, finally allowing himself to stay. "I do not know how to be a father," he said honestly, "but I want to learn, if you will let me." Her throat tightened. "This is not about what I want," she said. "It is about him." "I know," he replied. "That is why I am asking." They fell quiet as the boy shifted in his sleep. His small fingers curled instinctively around the edge of the blanket. The doctor reached out again, hesitated, then placed his hand gently over the boy's arm. This time, he did not pull away. "He has your eyes," she said softly. He exhaled. "I see it now." Morning light filtered through the blinds, painting pale lines across the floor. The emergency room that had felt so cold and terrifying hours earlier now seemed almost peaceful. Life moved on just beyond the walls, unaware that something sacred had changed inside. When the boy finally woke, his eyes fluttered open, confused but calm. He looked at his mother first, then at the man beside her. "Mom?" he whispered. "I am right here," she said, leaning close. "You are safe." The boy frowned slightly, studying the unfamiliar face. "Who is he?" She glanced at the doctor, then back at her son. "He is someone very important," she said carefully. The doctor smiled, tentative but sincere. "Hello," he said. "I am glad you are feeling better." The boy nodded sleepily and closed his eyes again. Later that morning, they moved him to a quieter room for observation. The crisis had passed, but the healing had only begun. As they walked together down the hallway, the doctor slowed his steps to match hers. "I will not disappear again," he said. "Whatever you need, whatever he needs, I am here." She studied his face, searching for doubt, for fear. She found only resolve. "Then we take this one step at a time," she said. He nodded. Together. Behind them, the emergency room doors closed softly. Ahead of them waited uncertainty, forgiveness, and the fragile beginning of something neither of them had planned, but both were finally ready to face. The days that followed moved more slowly, as if time itself had decided to give them space. Her son remained in the hospital for observation, his fever gone, but his strength still returning in small steps. Each morning, she watched him sit up a little straighter, ask for food with more confidence, smile more easily. Every improvement felt like a quiet miracle. The doctor came by before and after his shifts, no longer hiding behind professional distance. He explained medications carefully, asked her opinion, listened when she spoke. He did not make promises he could not keep. Instead, he showed up, again and again. On the third day, the boy asked if the doctor could stay while he ate lunch. The request was simple, the effect was not. The doctor froze for half a second, then pulled a chair close to the bed. He opened a carton of apple juice, helping steady small hands that still trembled. The boy grinned at him, unafraid, accepting the attention without question. She stood near the window, watching the two of them together. The sight filled her with warmth and fear all at once. She had protected her son fiercely for 6 years. Now she was learning how to share that protection. Later that afternoon, while the boy napped, she and the doctor stepped into the quiet family room down the hall. The television was muted. The couch was empty. "I need to be honest," she said, her voice low. "This changes everything." "I know," he replied. "I am not asking you to fix the past," she continued. "I am asking you not to repeat it." He nodded. "I will not run. Not from him, not from you." She studied him carefully. "Being a father is not something you can do part-time." "I understand," he said. "I want the hard parts, the ordinary parts, all of it." The words settled between them, heavy but sincere. That evening, the attending physician cleared the boy for discharge the following morning. Relief rippled through her, followed by a new wave of uncertainty. Leaving the hospital meant stepping into a future that no longer belonged to her alone. When the boy woke, she told him they were going home. He cheered softly, then looked toward the doctor. "Is he coming too?" She hesitated, then smiled. "He will visit." The doctor crouched beside the bed. "I would like that very much." The next morning, sunlight filled the room as they packed up the small collection of belongings that had gathered over the week. The nurse removed the intravenous line, placing a bandage with cartoon stars on the boy's arm. He examined it proudly. As they prepared to leave, the doctor handed her a folded piece of paper. "My personal number," he said, "for anything, day or night." She took it, her fingers brushing his. "Thank you." They walked together toward the exit, the boy skipping slightly ahead. Near the doors, the doctor stopped. "I know trust does not return overnight," he said. "I will earn it." She met his gaze. "That is all I ask." Outside, the air felt different, lighter. The boy climbed into the back seat, buckling himself in with determined care. The doctor stood by the car, hands in his pockets, unsure of where he belonged yet. She opened the driver's door, then paused. "We will take this slow," she said. He smiled softly. "Slow is fine." As she pulled away, she glanced in the rearview mirror. The doctor remained there, watching until the car disappeared down the street. Inside the vehicle, her son hummed quietly, content and safe. She rested one hand on the steering wheel, the other over her heart. The hospital had healed his body. What came next would take time. But for the first time in years, she felt hope, not as a fragile wish, but as something real, growing stronger with every mile forward. The week after they left the hospital felt unreal, like life had shifted without asking permission. Her son recovered quickly, his energy returning in bursts that filled the small apartment with noise and laughter. He went back to school, proud of the story he told about doctors and machines and the stars on his bandage. At night he slept deeply, his breathing steady and calm. She did not sleep as well. Every evening she replayed conversations in her mind, weighing each word, each look. She wondered how to protect her son without building new walls. She wondered how to let someone back into a life she had learned to carry alone. The doctor called the next day, just as he promised. His voice was careful, respectful. "I wanted to check on him," he said, "and on you." "He is doing well," she replied, still tired but smiling again. There was a pause. "May I come by this weekend, just to say hello?" She hesitated, then nodded even though he could not see her. Yes. On Saturday afternoon, he stood at her door holding a small paper bag. Inside was a children's book about space, its cover bright and inviting. He crouched to greet the boy at eye level, letting the child decide the distance. "For me?" the boy asked. "For you," the doctor said, smiling. "I heard you like planets." The boy beamed and immediately began flipping pages. They sat together on the living room floor, while the boy pointed out pictures and asked endless questions. The doctor listened patiently, answering what he could, laughing when he did not know. He did not push. He did not claim. He simply stayed. She watched from the kitchen doorway, her chest tight with emotion she could not yet name. Over the next few weeks, the visits became routine. Sometimes they went to the park. Sometimes they built puzzles on the living room table. The doctor learned how her son liked his sandwiches cut and which stories he wanted read twice. The boy learned that this man always kept his word. One evening, after the boy had fallen asleep on the couch, the doctor helped carry him to bed. He tucked the blanket gently around small shoulders, his movements careful and reverent. "He trusts you," she whispered. "I will never take that lightly," he replied. They sat together in the quiet living room, the weight of the day settling into something softer. "I was angry for a long time," she admitted. "I told myself I was better off alone." "I do not blame you," he said. "I would have done the same to protect him." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and saw not the man who left, but the man who stayed. "This will not be easy," she said. "I am not looking for easy," he answered. Months passed. Seasons changed. The boy grew stronger, louder, more confident. He began calling the doctor by his name, then by something closer, something tentative. No one corrected him. One night, as they walked home under streetlights, the boy slipped his hand into the doctor's without thinking. The doctor froze, then gently closed his fingers around the small hand. She watched, her eyes filling with tears. Healing did not come all at once. It came in moments, in shared dinners, in honest conversations, in quiet promises kept without witnesses. The hospital had brought them together in fear. Life taught them how to stay. And in the space where pain once lived, something steady began to grow. Life settled into a rhythm that felt almost ordinary, and that was what frightened her most. Ordinary meant attachment. Ordinary meant expectations. Ordinary meant something to lose. The doctor became a quiet presence in their lives, steady and consistent. He picked the boy up from school once a week. He attended a parent meeting without being asked. He learned the names of teachers and classmates and showed up to weekend soccer games with a folding chair and a bottle of water already chilled. People began to notice. One afternoon, as they sat on a park bench watching the boy climb the jungle gym, she finally said what had been tightening her chest for weeks. "You cannot half belong," she said. "Not to him, not to this." He did not look away. "I know. This is not a visit anymore," she continued. "This is his life." "I am aware," he said calmly. "That is why I am still here." She nodded, but fear lingered. She had learned how quickly things could be taken away. That fear deepened when a letter arrived at her apartment a few days later. The hospital logo was stamped in the corner. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The doctor had been offered a senior position at a prestigious medical center across the country. Better hours, more influence, a future he had worked toward for years. That night, after the boy fell asleep, she placed the letter on the table between them. "You did not tell me," she said. "I just found out," he replied. "I wanted to think first." "And what did you think?" she asked quietly. He exhaled. "I thought about him." Silence filled the room. "I will not ask you to give up your career," she said. "I will not be the reason you resent this." He shook his head. "You are not a reason. You are the reason I finally understand what matters." She looked at him, searching for hesitation. "This decision cannot be about guilt." "It is not," he said. "It is about choice." The next morning, he took the boy for breakfast. They sat in a small diner, sharing pancakes and laughter. At one point, the boy looked up and asked, "Are you leaving?" The question landed without accusation, just curiosity. The doctor set down his fork. "No," he said gently, "I am not leaving." The boy smiled, satisfied, and returned to his food. Later that week, the doctor declined the offer. He did not announce it dramatically. He simply continued showing up, as he always had. Trust grew slowly, like something fragile learning how to stand. Then came the night everything nearly unraveled. A sudden storm flooded streets across the city. The doctor was called in for an emergency shift. The boy spiked a mild fever, nothing dangerous, but enough to bring memories rushing back. She sat by the bed, heart racing, while rain battered the windows. Without thinking, she called him. He arrived, soaked, still in scrubs, breathing hard from running. "I am here," he said. The boy stirred and smiled when he saw him. The fever passed within hours. Afterward, she broke down. "I am scared all the time," she admitted. "I do not know how to live without bracing for disaster." He took her hands, grounding her. "Healing does not mean forgetting," he said. "It means not facing fear alone." She leaned into him, finally allowing herself to rest. That night marked a quiet shift. This was no longer about recovering from the past. It was about choosing the future, together. The turning point came quietly, without warning. It began with a routine school event, the kind she had attended alone for years. Parents filled the small auditorium, folding chairs scraping against the floor as children lined up on stage. Her son stood near the front, scanning the crowd with open curiosity. This time, there were 2 empty seats beside her. The doctor arrived just as the lights dimmed, slipping into the chair on the other side of the aisle. He did not make a show of it. He simply sat, shoulders relaxed, eyes fixed on the stage. When the boy spotted him, his face lit up. That single look did something to her chest. It was joy, but it was also exposure. The truth they had been living privately was now visible to the world. After the performance, another parent approached, smiling politely. "Are you his father?" she asked, gesturing toward the boy. The doctor answered before she could. "Yes." The word hung in the air, simple and unguarded. She held her breath, waiting for fear to rush in. It did not. Instead, there was relief. That night, after the boy fell asleep, she finally allowed herself to say what she had been carrying. "I am afraid that if we name this, we can lose it." He listened without interrupting. "I spent years building a life that could survive anything," she continued. "Letting you in means trusting that it will not all fall apart again." He reached for her hand. "I cannot promise nothing will ever hurt," he said, "but I can promise that I will not disappear when it does." The next test came sooner than expected. A legal notice arrived from the hospital administration. A colleague had raised concerns about professional boundaries after recognizing the boy during a visit. An internal review was required, standard procedure, but the implications were heavy. The doctor was calm. "This is not punishment," he said. "It is protocol." She was not. "I do not want your career damaged because of us." He shook his head. "My integrity matters, and so does my family." During the review, he was transparent. He disclosed the relationship. He documented every step taken to transfer care appropriately. He accepted oversight without defensiveness. Weeks passed. The outcome was clear. No wrongdoing, no penalty. What remained was a question only they could answer. One evening, they sat at the kitchen table while the boy colored nearby. The doctor placed a small envelope between them. "It is a lease," he said. "Closer to the school, closer to the hospital. I would like to move in, if you are ready." She stared at the envelope, heart racing. This was not a dramatic gesture. It was practical, permanent. The boy looked up. "Does this mean you will be here every day?" "If you want me to be," the doctor said. The boy nodded. "I do." She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. "We do this carefully," she said. "We talk. We protect him. We protect us." He smiled softly. Agreed. The move happened gradually. Toothbrushes shared space. Shoes lined the door. Evenings found them cooking together, laughter replacing tension. One night, after the boy had gone to bed, she leaned against the counter, watching the doctor wash dishes. "I used to think healing was something that happened in hospitals," she said. "Now I know it happens here." He turned, drying his hands. "Healing is choosing to stay." She reached for him, not out of fear, but certainty. The family they had never planned was no longer fragile. It was real. The months that followed felt quieter, steadier, almost deceptively calm. Life settled into routines that once seemed impossible. Mornings were rushed but warm. Evenings ended with shared meals and familiar laughter. The boy thrived in ways that surprised them both, more confident at school, quicker to smile, sleeping through the night without fear. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that stability could last. Then the past returned, not loudly but persistently. It began with a phone call she did not expect, a voice from years ago, his mother. She listened in silence as the woman spoke, polite but firm, asking questions that felt less like concern and more like inspection. Where were they living? How serious was this arrangement? Whether the child was truly his? When the call ended, her hands were shaking. That evening, she told him everything. He did not interrupt. He did not minimize her fear. "My family does not get to decide this," he said finally. "But they will try." They did try. An invitation arrived for a family gathering, carefully worded, impossible to ignore. She hesitated, knowing what it meant. Visibility, judgment, a test she had not prepared for. "We do not have to go," she said. "We should," he replied, "not to prove anything, but to stop hiding." The gathering was held at a large house filled with unfamiliar faces and polite smiles. Conversations paused when they entered. Eyes lingered on the boy, calculating resemblances. She felt exposed, protective instincts rising like armor. Then something unexpected happened. His father knelt in front of the boy and asked about school. His sister complimented a drawing the boy carried proudly. No one raised their voice, no one accused. The resistance was quieter, more subtle. Later that evening, his mother pulled her aside. "You built a life without us," the woman said carefully. "Yes," she replied, "because I had to." There was a long pause. "He seems happy," his mother admitted, "and safe." "He is," she said. The conversation did not end with warmth, but it ended with acceptance. On the drive home, the boy slept between them, clutching a small toy he had been given. She watched the streetlights pass and felt something loosen inside her. They had faced the outside world together and survived. Weeks later, the doctor planned a quiet evening on the rooftop of their building. No audience, no pressure, just city lights and the soft hum of life below. The boy was already asleep. She stepped outside to find candles glowing softly, not extravagant, just thoughtful. He stood there, hands steady, eyes nervous. "I am not good at speeches," he said. "You know that." She smiled faintly. "Then do not give one." He took her hands. "I lost years I cannot reclaim, but I will spend the rest of my life choosing you, choosing him, choosing this family." He knelt, not dramatically but deliberately, holding out a simple ring. "Will you marry me?" The world did not spin. There were no fireworks. There was only clarity. "Yes," she said. He exhaled, relief and joy mixing in a laugh that felt like release. They stood there for a long time, city lights reflecting in quiet tears. Below them, life moved on, unaware of the promise made above. Healing had not erased their scars. It had taught them how to live with them, together. The wedding was small, exactly the way they wanted it. No ballroom, no headlines. Just a quiet garden behind the hospital, where everything had begun. White chairs lined the path, softened by sunlight filtering through old trees. Friends gathered close, not as witnesses to a spectacle, but as guardians of a promise. Her son stood proudly at the front, dressed in a neat suit that felt far too grown for his small shoulders. He clutched the ring box with both hands, serious and focused, as if he understood the weight of what he carried. She watched him from a distance, her heart full. This child had been the center of her world for so long. Now he was standing between the past and the future, steady and unafraid. When the doctor stepped forward, dressed simply, his eyes never left hers. There was no doubt in his expression, no hesitation, only gratitude. As she walked toward him, she thought about that night in the emergency room. The cold lights, the fear that had hollowed her chest, the man in the white coat who had once been her past and became her future. The vows were quiet but certain. "I choose you," he said, voice firm. "Every day, in calm and in chaos, as a partner, as a father, as a family." She met his gaze. "I choose you too," she replied. "Not because we were broken, but because we healed. Together." When her son placed the rings into their hands, he smiled wider than she had ever seen. When the doctor bent down and whispered thank you to him, the boy nodded solemnly, as if this was exactly where he belonged. They kissed beneath the trees, not to applause, but to a deep, shared breath. Life did not slow down after that. The doctor returned to work, no longer just saving lives, but coming home to one. She continued building a life that balanced strength with trust. Their evenings were filled with homework questions, shared dinners, and the kind of laughter that came from safety, not relief. Sometimes, they still passed the emergency room doors. Her son liked to wave when they walked by, as if greeting an old friend. She watched the doctor pause every time, just for a moment, eyes soft, remembering. One evening, months later, as they sat together on the couch, the boy leaned against the doctor and asked, "Do you think hospitals know they change lives?" The doctor smiled. "I think they do." She reached for both of them, pulling them close. Healing, she realized, was never about forgetting pain. It was about allowing love to grow around it, stronger than fear. The emergency room had brought them together in crisis. Life had taught them how to stay. And in the quiet moments, when the world felt ordinary and whole, she knew this was the miracle they had been given. Not wealth, not perfection, but a family that chose one another every single day.